Well, good evening. Hello to our new Norse family members. We may have a few more folks join us, but we're going to get started. Thank you for joining tonight's town hall, where our team will share some valuable information to help make NKU affordable. We're going to let a few more folks in and we'll get started. Our event is scheduled to go from 6 to 7 p.m. My name is Melissa Gorbant, and I'm the Director of Admissions here at NKU. And I'm joined by two of my colleagues tonight. Travis Hall is our Coordinator of Student Financial Assistance, and Dr. Brooke Buckley is Chair of our Mathematics and Statistics Department. This is a webinar, so our guests will only see the panelists, and we will not be able to take questions directly from the audience by a raise of hands. However, you will be able to list your questions in the Q&A, and we will use the chat feature for only sharing links or important information for all those that are part of our event tonight. We will keep an eye on the Q&A and make sure we address all questions, whether in the Q&A or actually through our presentation. Trust me, if you have a question, I'm sure others do, so please be brave and ask the question. Tonight, we're going to share a peek of what we are planning for this fall semester at NKU for our community. And Travis is going to share a lot of information about financial aid opportunities to help finance a college education. Brooke and I are going to share some opportunities to help save some money and get a taste of what NKU Summer can look like at NKU. So let's get started. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. I've got a couple of slides about how NKU is going to resume this fall, and then we'll get started with Travis. So NKU is back to the future this fall. We're real excited that courses will be open in an in-person and hybrid online options. NKU is going to be the university that you need us to be, your son or daughter and you as a family. Residence halls will be open, events and activities will be on campus, and we will start providing student support virtually as well. We have a renewed focus on providing a tech-enhanced coordinated academic and social support network for our students. One moment. I want to give you an update that NKU is not going to require that students get a COVID-19 vaccine, but it's strongly recommended, especially for students who are living in university housing. We have health services providing treatment and testing for common illnesses and injuries, including COVID-19 testing. And our counseling services will continue to provide therapy to students for a variety of conditions that they may need assistance with. Part of our Back to the Future plans is student support services will be providing on-campus and virtual support. We have students that still are enjoying the virtual connection. We are determined to deliver a holistic coordinated care approach to supporting student success. So now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Travis, who will give us some information about financing the future.
Hello, my name is Travis Hall. As Melissa said, I'm one of the coordinators in financial aid here at NKU. And this is just a brief and basic overview of the financial aid process. The basic steps for applying for financial aid, the first is, of course, you apply for admissions. We can't process you for financial aid until we see that you're an admitted student and are eligible. Depending on your FAFSA application, you may have additional documentation and forms that you need to submit, so you'll need to monitor your student account for that. If you have not already, unfortunately, the deadline for scholarships has passed for this upcoming fall, but I will give you information later about how you can apply for scholarships in future semesters. And you can always apply for scholarships outside of NKU. The Department of Education runs a website called FastWeb that is a really good source for those outside scholarships. And then after that, you'll always want to just keep an eye on your account and follow up just to make sure that your applications went through, that everything was completed. Next slide. The FAFSA is the cornerstone for financial aid. It stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is the application through the Department of Education to see what you're eligible for as far as grants, loans, work study, everything that the government offers and everything that the state offers. It is an online application. And as I said earlier, it is a free application, but it's only free if you do it through the government website. You'll need to go to fafsa.ed.gov. If you go to a site like fafsa.com, they may try to charge you for the free application just to fill it out for you. So always make sure you're going to those sites that end in .ed or .gov or .edu for your educational resources. It is available now on apps through the phone, on your phone. So you should be able to search for My Student Aid on either an Apple or Android phone. And a big important fact about the FAFSA is that you have to apply for it every single year. So if you are receiving a FAFSA now, you'll still need to complete it again this fall for next year. The upcoming fall semester is part of the 2021-2022 academic year. So when you're completing that FAFSA, there are a few things you'll need. You'll need the student social security number. It's very important that you put the correct social security number on the FAFSA. That's one of the bigger complications you can have with getting your FAFSA information to us. You'll have to create an FSA ID. An FSA ID is your identification with the Department of Education. That's going to be your username and your password. If you have a driver's license, you'll need your driver's license number, but you're not required to have a driver's license to receive financial aid. So if you don't have a driver's license number, that is fine. You can skip over that question. If you're considered a dependent student, your parent will also need to provide their social security number and create their own FSA ID. It's very important that both the student and the parent have different email addresses for their FSA IDs. In addition, we encourage students to use an email address that is not related to their high school. We sometimes see situations where students sign up using their high school information, and then the high school cancels that email account 6 months into their college career. So if you have another email account, use that. If not, please try to create one. The current FAFSA is based off the 2019 tax return and W-2s for both the student and parent. The FAFSA uses information from what they call prior year. When the FAFSA opened on October 1st, 2020, the most recent tax return was the 2019 tax return. So excuse me, it sticks with that tax information throughout the life of the application. If the student or parent were receiving untaxed income, you'll need that information. And then if you do have assets, you'll want that information as well. Some important reminders about completing the FAFSA. Again, both the student and the parent will need an FSA ID to sign that FAFSA. Use a permanent email address. Again, we try not to use school or work email addresses for those because those things can change. Utilize all verification options. If it asks for a security question, use it. If it uses two-factor identification, you'll want to use it. Email and phone number retrieval is always a plus. NKU University School Code is 009275. It's not required that you enter that code to complete the FAFSA, but you do have to tell them where you want the application to go. If you just use our number, it'll get to us quick and easy, but you can still search through the FAFSA application for NKU in particular. When the FAFSA is submitted, the student will start to receive emails from the Department of Education. The big one you want to watch for is application completed. That means there are no more issues with the processing of the FAFSA. They'll then send it to the university for review. At that time, you'll be looked at to see if there's any additional documentation that you need. I mentioned a couple times verification. That is the biggest delay that you can potentially have with the FAFSA. 1 out of 3 students are selected at random to complete verification. So if you get selected, it does not mean that you've done anything wrong. It's what they call quality assurance. If they select 1 out of 3 students and they see half of them are answering a question wrong, well, then they realize there's a problem with the question, not with the students. So it's how they make sure that the information they're getting is accurate and that they're asking accurate questions to get the information that they want. If you do get selected verification, it can be a bit of a hassle. There's additional documentations you'll have to turn into the university, either by email or physically delivering it to the university. There's going to be worksheets that we will provide for you to complete. We'll need tax documents. We hopefully will get those from the IRS, but in some circumstances, we'll be able to accept just your direct tax documents. And then depending on the type of verification you get selected for, there are other documentations you may need to submit as well. Total, it takes at least 1 to 2 weeks for us to process this after you get it to us. So again, it can delay the process. That's a very good reason to complete the FAFSA as soon as you can. Once we get all the documentation we need, we would then be able to start working on your financial aid package. Now, one of the things we try to remind students about is that there are special circumstances, and the Department of Education understands this. The FAFSA itself is a very cold application. It doesn't ask you questions that have any fluidity to them. It says, look at your tax return and put in the number that's on this specific line. That's all it wants to know. It doesn't give you any option to tell your story. If you do have special circumstances, the government allows schools to review that information to determine if the FAFSA needs to be changed. They call this professional judgment. For example, if you have lost your job since 2019 and are making less money than you made then, if there is a medical expense that wasn't covered by insurance that you have documentation to show you paid out of pocket, if there's been a change in the parent's marital status or the student's marital status, even, and if a student is unable to contact a parent or has no contact with a parent, those are all things that we can say, okay, the FAFSA itself can't document those circumstances. Contact the school and we can document those circumstances for you. So if any of those apply to you, please contact our office so we can make sure you get the forms for that. Once everything is complete, you'll receive your financial aid award letter. And this is going to be the letter that breaks down what you're eligible for through the FAFSA application and as well as any school scholarships you will be receiving. This will also have an estimated direct cost. We have to point out this is estimated currently. We don't have your actual bill until after you enroll in classes. So it's going to be a pretty accurate estimation, but it is still an estimate. But it would say, this is what we expect your tuition and mandatory fees to be. If you put on the FAFSA or contacted housing and said that you plan to live on campus, it would have an estimated room and board charge. And then it will also say you're getting this much in scholarships, this much in grants, loans. If you selected work study, it would list work study options. And then it would sort of give you a bottom line number. It would say, okay, this is your cost. This is how much aid you're receiving. This is what you'll be looking at as your final verdict, whether it would be you need to pay this much out of pocket or you're receiving more funds than you owe, so you'll be eligible for a refund to help cover some of your other school expenses. Now, if you do have a deficit that you have to make up, some of your options would be outside scholarships. Paying out of pocket, of course, is always acceptable. Your parents could apply for a parent loan. There are private loans. And then some of you may have already set up a 529 or tuition plan for the students that could apply to that as well. There are sometimes things that won't be on the award letter that you'll have to pay for that we always want you to consider. The university itself does not bill you for books. You're welcome to purchase your books wherever you would like. We do have an excellent bookstore, of course, but you're welcome to do that however you would like. We budget about $400 to $500 a semester for books. There are some semesters that will be way too much. If you're taking a book rental or used books, your cost could be lower. If you need only new books for specific classes that require access codes, they may be more. But $400 to $500 is a good budgeting a guesstimation as to what you might need. As far as the aid itself goes, there's a couple different types. There's grants, which of course is the aid that you're not required to repay. Scholarships and merit awards, those are based upon your merit, your skill, your ability, the talent, or any achievement that you had. Those are also not required to be repaid. Student loans, of course, are loans. You would have to repay those, but the student loans don't begin repayment until you get out of school. And then there's also the work study option. As far as grants go, the two you'll primarily be dealing with through the FAFSA application is the federal Pell Grant, which for the current year, 2020-21, was $6,345 for the year. That is determined based on the EFC. This is a number you'll receive after the FAFSA is completed. It's the estimated family contribution, how much they feel the student and the parents can contribute towards the cost of education. In the hours of your enrollment, for example, if you're not enrolled full-time, the amount of your grants will go down just because they're providing it for full-time enrollment. So if you're not enrolled full-time, you would get less. The Department of Education also offers a supplemental educational opportunity grant. We just call it the SEOG because it's much easier to say. The maximum for that one is $2,000 per year, but that one is very limited in funding. You need to apply as early as you can for that one. The state of Kentucky for Kentucky residents also offers two other sources. The first is the CAP grant. You do have to be Pell Grant eligible to receive the CAP grant. For the upcoming year, the governor has announced that it's going up to $2,900 per year. This is for any public university or private college in the state of Kentucky. And this is only for fall and spring semesters. So none of the funding for that would go to a summer semester. And then based upon your high school performance, you also receive your KEYS money. That will be locked in as the amount after the conclusion of your senior year. Some of you may already have a really good idea of what that's going to be. If you are an in-state resident, you were evaluated for a merit-based scholarship so long as you were admitted before March 15th. And then we also had an online application that we began reviewing after March 15th. We're going to try to have all those awards made by early May. So you should find out in the next couple of weeks whether there are any additional scholarships you would receive. If you are an out-of-state student, you will automatically receive the EDGE Award, provided you had the 2.5 unweighted high school GPA. That will basically knock your out-of-state tuition charges to about the Kentucky rate plus $500. So if the Kentucky rate is $5,200, then it would be roughly $5,700 for the out-of-state cost after the EDGE Award applies. And then every November, we also open an additional scholarship application for continuing students and transfer students. So even if you do not currently have a scholarship, in November, you can apply for a scholarship, or you can apply for more scholarships. And there are some very good scholarships on that continuing student application. There's some that even cover all of tuition. So we strongly encourage you every November to apply for that application. Outside scholarships, the biggest resource I mentioned a little bit earlier is fastweb.com. That one is sort of headed by the Department of Education. They just keep tabs on corporate and donor organizations that are providing scholarships for any university. We recommend that you develop a resume of accomplishments. Just document the activities you've participated in, leadership involvement, any awards or accomplishments that you have, and even keep a track of all of your part-time jobs as well, so that you can every year resubmit scholarship applications to those outside organization scholarships. Another good source is always your high school guidance counselor. They may know of community scholarships that you can apply for, religious organizations, local employers, and then always the large companies almost always have a scholarship you can apply somewhere on their website. For example, when I went to college, which was many years ago, but I got a scholarship from Walmart that helped cover my first year as well.
Travis, before you move on to student employment, there's a question in the Q&A. Can you give some idea of when KEYS money and other financial aid will show up in accounts?
KEYS money, some of those have already started, some have not. It really depends upon your high school. They have to have either a 12th grade GPA reported or an estimate of what they expect your 12th grade GPA to be before they'll tell it to us. They sort of, if your high school's reported enough information, they'll send us an estimate. If not, they won't report it until after your spring senior year ends. So usually by mid-June, you shouldn't have your KEYS money out there. If not, contact us and we can go look for it. With regard to the other question, or the other part of the question, if you've submitted the FAFSA and it's been more than 2 weeks, we should have your award made unless you have some kind of documentation that you need. So if you did your FAFSA more than 2 weeks ago and you have not received anything from us, check My NKU. If you click on the financial aid tab, one of the options that comes up will be documents. And it would say in there, well, we need this document from you to complete the process. Those are excellent questions. Student employment. There are two different types. There's federal work study and institutional work study. Federal work study requires that you complete a FAFSA and that you be deemed eligible, that you have the need-based criteria for federal work study. Institutional is in a position through NKU that NKU pays, and it only requires that you be enrolled in at least 9 credit hours. So if you're looking for student jobs, which you can do now at jobs.nku.edu, any job that says institutional, so long as you plan to enroll in 9 hours, you can apply for that. If it says federal, you need to complete a FAFSA and you need to contact our office just to make sure that you do meet the requirements for it. One of the big benefits of student employment is that it has to work around your class schedule. You cannot be told that you need to work during class functions or class attendance. During the year, Students average about 15 hours per week. The maximum you can work is 25 hours, but in summer it can go up to 35 depending upon your department if they need you for the summer as well. The big thing about student employment is it does not pay your university bill. These are funds that you have earned from work, so we have to give them to you. We release them directly to you as a paycheck. You can turn around and pay that on your bill if you would like, but we won't keep the money from you. You would be responsible for doing that, for paying your bill with that work check. Federal direct loans are the loans through the FAFSA application. There are two types for students, but really there's just one type with a small difference. There are subsidized and unsubsidized loans. They're the exact same in every way but one. Both of them, you're going to begin repayment 6 months after you graduate or you stop attending. They're going to have the same repayment plans. They're going to have the same interest rate, which is currently 2.75%. The only difference between the two is that one of them is subsidized by the Department of Education. They will cover the interest on that loan while you are a student. So if you take out $1,000 subsidized loan in the fall, the day you graduate, you owe $1,000 and it then starts accruing interest. If you take out $1,000 unsubsidized loan, it will accrue interest while you're in college, and it will still accrue after you graduate. So you will save 4 years of interest charges by taking the subsidized loan if you are offered that one. That doesn't mean the unsubsidized loan is a bad loan. These are still the two best loans you will probably find for your college education. So always start with the federal FAFSA loans before moving on to a parent loan or a private loan. For a freshman, those loan amounts are going to be $5,500 for the year, of which the most that they will subsidize is $3,500. So if you qualify for the most subsidized, you'll see that you get $3,500 subsidized and $2,000 unsubsidized to meet that $5,500. It does go up as a sophomore and then again as a junior. If the federal student loans, the grants, the scholarships are not enough to cover all of your costs, the parents have the option of applying for a parent loan. That is what the government calls a PLUS loan, a parent loan for undergraduate students, PLUS. This is a loan that is in the parent's name. So the parent would be responsible for repaying this loan. And it is credit-based, so the parents have to actually apply for this one after the student does the FAFSA. So both of those things have to be completed. It does have a fixed interest rate of 5.3% for the current year, and it can be deferred. And when you fill out the parent loan, you have the option of begin paying it immediately or deferring it until the student is no longer enrolled. Some families choose that option so the student can help pay for the PLUS loan. Even though it is the parent's loan, it is for them, so they'll help pay for it. The loan amount is limited to the total cost of attendance minus any of the other financial aid that you've received. So any of your bills that are not covered by your other aid, the parent loan can cover, including things like study abroad, housing, meal plan, all of those things. We do have very detailed step-by-step instructions on how to apply for the PLUS loan on our website. The final option is what we call alternative loans. These are loans outside of the Department of Education and outside the university. These will be loans in the student's name, though 99.9% of the time you're going to need a co-signer, simply because as a student, you do not have an extensive credit history for them to draw upon. These are available through maybe your local bank, your credit union. There are also private student loan companies. It's usually a good idea to start with someone you may have a relationship with. So if you have a credit account with a certain bank, you may want to start there. But again, this is a credit-based loan, so you will have to apply, and the university can't impact that credit check in any way. This is between you and that private company. After you apply, they will tell you if you're approved, and if so, they'll just contact the university to make sure that you don't exceed the cost of attendance. So you can't borrow more money than it costs to go to school, basically. There is also detailed instructions on how to apply on our website. We primarily go through a site called Fast Choice. This site is an aggregate website that keeps track of all the lenders so that you have an option of picking which one you would prefer. So we're not pushing you towards one specific company.
Travis, could you briefly touch on when they should think about receiving loans and financial aid packages? So is there a deadline by which they have to make that decision? And should they wait to see if there's some scholarships awarded first?
You do not have to accept a loan at any point early. We can award you for the fall semester up until the week of finals for the fall semester. So as far as financial aid office goes, we at any point during the semester, we can issue that award. But of course, there are deadlines as far as when you need to get your bill paid. So as from what you're looking at for all of this information, it takes about 2 weeks to get everything processed, and then another 2 weeks if you get selected for verification. So if you're starting from scratch, you want to budget at least a month before your bill is due to give yourself enough time to get everything done. If you've already applied and you've already been offered loan, mid-late July would be perfectly fine as far as making that decision of accepting that loan.
Thanks.
You're welcome. As far as how much is tuition, when is it due? Your NKU email address is the official form of communication with the university. I teach University 101 in the fall to our students, and we stress this extensively. Always check your email. Get in the habit of checking your university email every day. I recommend to my students that make it the thing you do early in the morning or right before going to bed, so you're always keeping track of your university email account. Your tuition bills are sent to your email account. Any information you get from financial aid is sent to your email account. We do not generate paper invoices for this. So that is your primary point of contact with the university. It is very important that you keep track of your university email. You can access it through your smartphone. The NKU homepage, if you just search for email on phone, there's a link with the IT help desk that can get that installed on your phone. Or if you're on campus, the Norse Tech Bar can help you get that installed. So just as an example for the tuition rates for the current year, if you were a Kentucky resident or if you are a Kentucky resident, it was $413 per credit hour. So for a full-time student, that comes to $4,956. Now, we also sort of do a discount for 12 to 16 hours. So if you're signed up for 12, you can take another 3 to 4 hour class with no additional charge. So we'll basically, if you sign up for 12 hours, we'll throw in an extra class for free. If you're an Indiana resident and qualify for the Indiana rate, which there are some specific counties there listed that do qualify, you would also be charged the in-state rate. For all other non-residents, the amount was $828 per credit hour, so $9,936. But again, those non-residents are going to receive the EDGE award, which would reduce it to $49.56 plus about $500. So again, you'll be about $5,400 to $5,500 after that EDGE award applies.
And Travis, NKU has 2 semesters, so that is a semester charge. So if you're looking at a total year, make sure you're calculating 2 semesters at that cost.
That's right. So for the upcoming fall semester, the due date is always, for any semester, your bills are due on the first day of class. So first day of class, August 23rd, 2021, that will be when your bill for the fall semester is due. If you pay 100% of it, then you're finished. That's tuition, fees, housing, all due on the same date. Your invoice should include, prior to that date, estimated financial aid. A fact for most schools is that you don't actually receive the money from your financial aid until after classes begin, because the government wants to make sure you're actually attending those classes before they send the money to the schools. So you'll see things like, well, your disbursement date is after the first day of class. Don't worry about that. We put it on your bill as an estimated financial aid account. So for all intents and purposes, from your end, it's already here. If you are not paid in full by August 23rd, so after that first day of class, if you have not paid your bill in full, the Student Account Services Office automatically puts you on a payment plan. The NKU payment plan charges an additional $50. So if you're not paid in full by the first day of class, they'll add an additional $50 fee. And then at the end of every month, they'll charge a 1.25% account maintenance fee for any unpaid balance. So if you pay 90% of your bill on August 23rd, then you'd get the $50 fee, and then at the end of the month, you'd be charged 1.25% interest on that remaining 10%. If you don't pay a penny on your bill on August 23rd, you're going to get the $50 fee, and then at the end of the month, get charged 1.25% interest. So for that installment plan, the way that works is they recommend that you pay at least 50% of your bill on that first day of class, and your financial aid counts towards that 50%. So if your total bill is roughly $5,000 for tuition, say you're not living on campus, and you have $4,000 in financial aid, you've paid that first 50%. They recommend the next 25% 1 month later, and then the final 25% 1 month after that. So by the middle of the semester, your bill is paid in full. You're free to start registering for classes for the next semester. If you do just want to peruse some of the information, not just about NKU, but about FAFSA in general, just some of the good websites for that, nku.edu, of course, our website has good information. Studentaid.ed.gov is the official Department of Education website, and they also run a YouTube page that has a lot of videos that are tutorials for applying for the FAFSA or completing any part of the application process. This is our contact information. We are the Office of Student Financial Assistance again. Our number is 859-572-5143. We are in the office from 8:15 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Our email address, ofa@nku.edu, stands for Office Financial Aid, so easy to remember, OFA. And our website, financialaid.nku.edu. Again, we have lots of information on our website as well.
Thank you, Travis. Brooke, do you see any questions that we would like to address for the group?
We've got the Q&A covered, and I've been trying to drop links into chat to the participants as Travis went through his slides.
That is much appreciated.
Thank you. So keep an eye and let us know of any questions. I wanted to make sure that we shared with you a great resource at NKU to help the education be affordable. We have, through the University Connect and Persist office, we call it UCAP, we have a lending library. It allows students to borrow one textbook per semester, and you can see the wide variety of textbooks that we have available. In addition to borrowing a textbook, our UCAP students will meet one-on-one with a UCAP staff member for an academic and financial wellness check-in. This is a great resource for our students to feel they can access a book, but also have that support from a UCAP representative. And we serve about 600 students a year through that opportunity. So check that out. And Brooke, if you want to drop that link, that would be great as well.
Ready there.
All righty. And then we also want to mention some great opportunities this summer. So, you know, your son or daughter, they definitely are finished in the high school year strong, and we want to thank you for the support of you as family members. But we want to get them started ready to go for this summer as well. So Brooke's going to drop that link in the chat that'll take you to a great website. But we've got some different options to share with you. We have a Summer Spark program, which is a chance for students to receive a college course credit for a very deep discounted price. It allows them to navigate with other students and learn about resources that are on campus. So your sons and daughters are getting emails about all of this. So I would encourage you to sit down with them this week, have them pull up their personal email and their NKU email and see all of the great resources that we're sharing with them. I'm going to let Brooke talk about STEM Ready in just a moment, but we have mentorship programs with NKU Rocks for our African-American students, our Latino mentor program as well. And those are orientation opportunities right before school begins that allow them to navigate the system. Those great programs, you are a mentee, but then when you become a mentor as an upperclassman, so great opportunities to help retain our students. We have a great Fresh Start program that allows a group of students to begin their college experience a couple of days before classes begin with some leadership activities. And then we're planning that move-in day about Thursday before classes begin. And then part of our students' experience after the one-day orientation experience in June or July is Victor Fest. Will begin that Friday before classes. And we have activities and resources available to them through the first week of school. So Brooke, I will let you talk more about STEM Ready, and then we'll talk about Math Placement May.
Great. So for those of you who have a student who's interested in a STEM major, so one of the sciences, a technology, computer science, computer information technology, one of our engineering or engineering technology programs, or mathematics, STEM Ready is a summer bridge program that can help improve their preparation in the area of mathematics. So all of those STEM disciplines, many of them require the completion of calculus. And so STEM Ready is a program that can really help. It's not entirely focused on preparing them just in mathematics. There is also a piece where we look at what early research experiences would look like in various disciplines. So we look at a biology, mini research experience, chemistry, as well as a data science research experience. So this summer, that will be the end of July through early August, 2 weeks. There are on-campus, there's also a virtual component, and there is email invitations that have gone out. So like Melissa said, that's one of those where check your son or daughter's email account because there will probably be information there about the program and the application piece. And I think the next piece that I'm going to deal with was Math Placement May. So Melissa, if you go to the next slide, my computer's freezing, so y'all are getting a bizarre video, and I'm just going to trust that things are moving. So for when thinking about math placement, all students as part of their gen ed experience take some type of a quantitative course. And then there are some other disciplines that require a little bit more mathematics. So what I hope you can see on the screen are the way that we've thought about those populations of students. So your son or daughter has gotten an email about math placement, and I believe today some of you may have gotten an email about math placement. So we looked at majors that only require the completion of a gen ed course. We looked at business majors plus a couple of extras. So exercise science, radiation therapy, and media informatics, and then also the STEM majors. And Melissa, if you'll go to the next slide, the way that we thought about those majors was we really focused on determining when a student would benefit from completing math placement. So for those majors that only need to complete a quantitative gen ed, those students had no test score or a math ACT or the equivalent that was less than a 19. So if you've received an email or your student has received an email, we really tried to go through and guarantee that they would benefit from participating in a math placement. For business majors, we looked for no test score or a math ACT less than 22. And then for STEM majors, we made a little bit of a split. And what you'll see on the next slide is the options that were presented to students. So for both the gen ed, the business majors, and certain STEM majors, they have two options available that they can choose from. One is they can come to campus and complete a placement test, and that's free at no cost. But we recognize that some folks don't live close to campus, and so that can be prohibitive. So ALEX is a virtual option, but it has a cost of about $35 for the student to complete. Now, for some of those STEM majors that are right on the threshold of being ready to go into a calculus course, for those students, really the only option for them is the virtual option because the on-campus placement testing won't place them as high as where their ACT score places them. So if we look at the next slide, it kind of lays out the timeline that we're looking at. So those on-campus placement tests are going to be given on Fridays and Saturdays starting April 30th. And so on Friday, we're doing a 4 o'clock start to try to get folks as they get out of school. Most Saturdays, it's a 10 a.m. start, so we don't ruin your whole day. The exception of that is May 8th, because we're going to try to thread the needle between a couple of NKU commencements. So you can sign up for the on-campus placement testing. And then the other option is to consider the ALEX placement test, which again has a little bit of cost associated with that. And I think, Melissa, I've got one more slide. Again, I can't see any of these because I've got network issues. But that last slide shows the kind of the timeline communication. So we're going to do one last push during the first week of May, which is kind of the last chance to sign up for an on-campus placement test option. And then mid-May, we'll shift everything to an ALEX only option. Now, if your student has taken any dual credit coursework in mathematics, maybe is in an AP course right now, and in some Kentucky schools, you will hear that they're given the Coyote test at the end of the year. That can change whether they need to take a placement test. And so if they reply to any of those emails that they've gotten, we can help navigate whether they need to do that or what benefit would come from that. And I think that covers me, Melissa.
Does. Thank you, Brooke. So the idea was to make sure that you were aware of options that will save some money, regardless if it's about financial aid opportunities, if it is about the lending library, Summer Spark this summer to get a course for a discounted rate, but then also save some money to make sure that you're properly placed in the right math course to meet your academic major. So that is the end of our prepared presentation. So we're open for any questions or answers that we can share. Please drop those in the Q&A and we'll make sure to we answer those before our evening departs.
So it looks like there's one there now about freshman move-in days.
So classes begin on Monday, August the 23rd, and Housing right now is working on a schedule for move-in. Typically, August 19th, the Thursday before classes, is when move-in begins. We may have some staggered move-ins during that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but we expect to be at full capacity with Housing this fall as well. So more information will come from Housing when Housing assignments have been made, but plan on that Thursday, then August 19th. I would also mention that several of our families tonight have already confirmed their enrollment to NKU, which is great. It means that they will receive emails to their personal email that they applied for admission, an early scheduling survey, which is great for our advisors. It gives more information for an advisor to help build a fall schedule. They will also receive an invitation for Northern Exposure, which is our summer orientation event. We are hosting both in-person and half-day and virtual orientations. Also, beginning this week, advisors are reaching out via email to the NKU email that Travis did a great job explaining the importance of that email. Have your son or daughter check their NKU email. They will get invited to do a virtual advising appointment with an advisor, and that helps them build their class schedule. They must still come to the new student orientation, either in person or virtual, to lock their schedule and confirm their schedule at that time. But we're going to learn a lot from the experience last year, that having a virtual experience with an advisor offers some one-on-one chance to talk about the courses needed, any sort of career questions that you have, anything about placement, anything about resources. So we're going to continue that we learned was a great experience for our students last year. If you have not yet confirmed your enrollment, we encourage you to do that by May 1. Orientation dates are filling up. You can do that by paying a $75 fee through My NKU portal. My NKU portal information was included in the letter of acceptance. The easiest way is to go to password.nku.edu to activate your My NKU. Your student username was provided in their letter of acceptance. We can always provide that to you by calling our Office of Admissions or sending us an email at nkuadmissions.nku.edu. We'll be glad to reach out to you as well. I guess it's nkuadmissions@nku.edu. Let's see what other questions we have. Orientation allows student and a guest. Does Victor Fest allow a guest, or is it just for students? Great question. New student orientation, we are allowed to have one guest. There is a separate family and guest program from student program. It's a half-day experience. Victor Fest is for students only. And then questions about housing. The housing application is open and we're encouraging all students to apply by May 31st. There is no particular housing roommate pairing option available. It's really designed to put students based on where they requested to live. We find that some students find roommates even at new student orientation. If you're interested in living with someone, both of you would have to contact housing to make sure that you're securing a room together. But at this point, there is not an actual live database or pairing that takes place for housing roommates. Any other question that we can help with tonight? So some words of advice that I think Travis would join me and Brooke would say, sit down with your son or daughter over the next 3 or 4 days and be thinking about several options. Are they checking their NKU email? It's very important. Make sure they keep an eye on their personal email as well, because we're emailing things about orientation in the early scheduling survey. If interested in the math placement, it's very important to take advantage of the math placement May programs, especially the ones that we're going to offer to you for no cost. And also keep an eye on the summer schedule, because there are a lot of options available for students, especially around Summer Spark and STEM Ready, to get academically prepared. And then we have several affinity groups that will assist them, like NKU Rocks and LAMP and so forth. I would also repeat the passwords like you mentioned. Yes, if you go to password.nku.edu, you will see an active button that says activate your MyNKU. And you will need your username that was assigned when you were admitted to NKU and the last 4 digits of your social security number to activate MyNKU. That activation also activates your MyNKU portal, which is where you can view your financial aid. You will register for classes. You can see your student bill. It also activates your NKU email address that you want to start using immediately as a student, so we can keep in contact with you all throughout the summer. And as Travis mentioned, it is an expectation that you keep a look at that all the way while you're in school. So even if you have a personal email, you should still direct that either NKU email to your personal email or vice versa, so you can keep up with the information we're trying to share with you. If you have questions specifically about roommates from housing, I would definitely have you call housing 859-572-5676, 859-572-5676. You can also email housing@nku.edu. If you did not receive email about math placement testing, can we assume that it is not required for our particular student? Brooke, would you like to answer that? Brooke may be having technical difficulties. Depending on—
can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Brooke, yes.
Okay, sorry. If you did not get an email about math placement, then that's probably an indication that the major and test score combination are such that you're ready to go into the entry-level course that you need for the major.
Thank you, Brooke. I think we've answered all of the questions that we have, so we'll keep it open for just a couple minutes more. I wanted to let you know some future opportunities that could assist you. We have 2 more town halls that are going to be available for you, but I want to let you know that, we congratulate your family and officially welcoming you to start the college journey with Norse Nation. We're excited to have you. We have 2 additional town halls that we invite you to register for. We have one on Tuesday, April 27th. The theme is academic and career services, and we have insights from NKU alumni. Parents or guardians are receiving the invite, but students are welcome to attend. And I'm real excited that tomorrow, your students, all admitted freshmen, are going to receive an email to join us on Thursday, April 29th. It's a student engagement webinar. It'll be from 6 to 7, and it's hosted by our own NKU students to share their advice on getting involved in clubs, organizations, and affinity groups. And as I mentioned, your students will receive an invite, and parents are welcome to come as well. We expect to have hundreds of students at that. And it's a great glimpse of what we'll be able to pair you and give you information about getting involved on NKU's campus. All of our students will learn more about engagement opportunities during the new student orientation events, and also through Victor Fest, which begins the Friday before classes begin. But Thursday, April 29th is a great opportunity to get your son and daughter thinking about engagement, because we know students that are engaged in a college experience have more joy in college. They do better in the classroom, and they're building lots of relationships and opportunities to help them navigate through college and be successful alumni. And many times our alumni are involved with our students to help with co-ops, internships, and first jobs after employment. Do we have any other additional questions?
We just got one, Melissa.
Okay.
Yep, I was going to say there's one that came through Q&A about dual credit courses.
Great.
And it's a great question, because having that information available for advisors is really helpful. But sometimes it's hard to make that happen because the university needs a copy of the official transcript. And if your student's in a class right now, well, they've got to wait until grades post. So when they do meet with their advisor to talk about a fall schedule, if they can even have an unofficial copy of the transcript, that gives us something to go off of to help prepare that fall schedule while we're waiting for those official transcripts to get received by the university.
Thank you, Dr. Buckley. And I would mention too that if your son or daughter has courses from NKU, we do not need you to order an official transcript. We have them. If there are dual credit courses from other colleges and universities, please make sure that we do receive official transcripts. Also, the same would be for AP courses. When our students confirm their enrollment, they receive an early scheduling survey. And during the early scheduling survey, a student can tell us what AP credits they've already received and what their scores were and what AP credits they're currently enrolled in. It also gives them a chance to tell us about their dual credit experience. Our advisors do the best we can all summer to make sure that any dual credit courses have been loaded to the student's record, but also any scheduling changes that we need to make, we make sure and do that. But really stay active this summer to make sure we have received official transcripts. Your high school cannot give us an official transcript for a dual credit course. And even if the course that you took at a university is on the high school transcript, we still need to have an official transcript sent. Excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions? Travis, if you don't mind, I'm having trouble getting to the chat. Would you mind putting my email address in the chat? It's just gorbant@nku.edu. So if any of you have questions about the admissions process, I'm happy to help. I also have colleagues like Travis in financial aid that can assist. Dr. Buckley is happy to answer any questions about math placement. So wanted to make sure that you have our resources as well. Any last minute questions? We thank you all for joining us this evening. Please enjoy this beautiful evening. I hear that some weather is coming tonight, overnight in Northern Kentucky. So enjoy this beautiful evening. And we're so glad that you took part in this evening tonight. Let us know if you have any questions. Have a good evening.